Welcome to another edition of Hey Bobby with Senior VP of the Cleveland Guardians, Bob DiBiasio. And of course, we're going to talk about this wonderful season that has played out for the Guardians. That's why you play 162 baseball games. The turnaround in the clubhouse, the players, it's been remarkable. And this last week of baseball is going to be fun. But Bobby, I wanted to start out today with a gentleman who in 1983 this week announced his retirement from baseball. 22 seasons, 314 wins, 3,534 strikeouts. And oh, by the way, in the early 70s, he won a Cy Young with our Cleveland Indians. And sometimes when you talk about great pitchers, they don't necessarily talk about Gaylord Perry. They talk about other things in regards to Gaylord, but maybe not how good he really was. And Bobby, why don't you talk a little bit about Gaylord Perry?
As you said, Ray, Hall of Famer, inducted in 1991, first pitcher in Major League Baseball history to win a Cy Young in both leagues. So 72 with the Cleveland Indians, winning 24 games and an ERA right under two. Um, he pitched 3+ seasons with us and he won 70 games and only lost 57. So his impact on our baseball team at that period of time. One of the things I always used to have fun talking to Bob Feller and guys like Gaylord Perry because I'd look up their stats and I'd notice they'd have a save during a year. So you'd ask Gaylord, you had one save and one save opportunity, and they were as proud of that as the 24 wins because it was something different that was asked of them to come out of the bullpen and close down a ball game. Two-time All-Star for us, five-time overall. Um, just a remarkable, as you said, plus 300 wins. Just a remarkable, fun man to chat with.
I speaking of chatting with him one time on one of those trips, Bobby, when we were out to Arizona covering the Indians slash Guardians, I was in the Sky Harbor Airport and I look across the hall and there's Gaylord sitting in a chair. So I walked over to Gaylord and I said, "Hey, I introduced myself out here covering the Indians. Would you be open to a little interview with me?" And he said, and he was so kind about it. He said, kind sir, I really don't do those anymore. I kind of travel around the country in my van. I watch baseball by the side, but I'd rather just keep it that way, as I'd like to just relax and enjoy watching baseball. So he was still a fan, but he kind of wanted out of the limelight a little bit.
Couple stories I need to share real quickly about Gaylord that I always found just the most remarkable. He would tell me stories about how he'd get into the opposing hitters' heads, and on occasion he would walk out. He'd say, "I'd have my sandals, I'd have my long sleeve undershirt on, and in a pair of gym shorts, and I'd walk around the batting cage while the opposing team was taking batting practice, and I'd go up to their best hitter and shake his hand, and I'd have Vaseline all over my hand, and everybody would hoot and holler, and he would just I'd turn around and head back to our clubhouse. And can you imagine playing into the spitball thing and in that kind of grand fashion to get in the heads of the other hitters. The other one is there was a hardware store on the east side of Cleveland in the 70s um, that was named Gaylord's, and they had their own brand of Vaseline. And Gaylord Perry was their spokesman, their pitchman, if you would. Um, and so he would promote and advertise Gaylord's Vaseline for Gaylord's hardware store on the east side of Cleveland. And I did this in one of my roundtable TV shows. Ray Fosse shared the story that they were shooting a commercial for Gaylord's Vaseline and Gaylord's hardware. And they asked Nestor Shilak, a major league umpire, to be in the commercial. So the commercial is Gaylord, Ray Fosse, and Nestor Shilak. and they go through the script and all of that. The very next night, Gaylord's on the mound. Ray Fosse's the catcher, and um, Nestor Shilak is the home plate ump. And the visiting manager, and I wish I could remember who it was, senior moment here, but he's screaming from the first pitch that Shilak needs to go out and check Gaylord because he's got Vaseline somewhere. He's throwing a spitball, and Shilak's ignoring him. And then all of a sudden, like the third inning, the visiting manager just doesn't call time or whatever, just walks out onto the field. And everybody stops, and he starts screaming at Nestor Shilak that he hasn't responded to him screaming since the first pitch. And for some reason, Ray Fosse said the three of us, Gaylord, myself, Nestor Shilak, reverted to the script of the commercial. And it angered the manager who was screaming and swearing that he just turned around and walked back to the dugout. I think that's just one of the great fun stories. I mean, the guy had a zillion of them. I don't know how many times I asked him where did he hide it. He wouldn't share that information.
Gaylord Perry retired this week back in 1983. Well, speaking of weeks, fabulous week and unfold in front of us with our Guardians. And Bobby and I talked about this a few weeks back, how Stephen Vogt maintained the steady ship with this team, always being positive. Even then, when many people, you go back to late June, early July, were counting us out and everything, he stayed with it. And Bobby, here we are, wild card division right in front of us with all home games this week.
It's been pretty remarkable. Let's start with Stephen Vogt and the incredible job he and his coaching staff have done. I just find it amazing that he just stays true to who he is. And one example of that is Petey Halpin, just the other day gets called up because Nolan Jones gets put on the injured list. And what Stephen Vogt is one of his prime philosophies is if you're on this roster, you deserve to play. So Petey comes up and all of a sudden he's in the lineup because that's the way Stephen Vogt is in the midst of what we're experiencing now, a drive for a division title. And he still allows a young kid just called up from the minors to get in the ball game, go play center field. And of course, Petey got a good base hit that helped us in a victory. But that's the one thing about him. He makes that philosophy that if you're on the roster, you deserve to play. It allows everybody on this roster to believe that they are an important piece of the puzzle. Now, if you want to go into all the stats, just think about where we were July 7th. I think you can go all the way back there, 15 and a half games back. And from that time forward, 44 and 24 going into the beginning of the homestand, which was the best record in Major League Baseball. The last 17 games you talk about from September 4th were 15 and 2. The only team close to us, excuse me, the only team close to us, Seattle Mariners stayed hot. You know, they're 14 and 2. But everybody else struggled, you know, Detroit 4 and 11, and Houston, Boston, Texas 7 and 8, Tampa 5 and 11. So we go 15 and 2. And you have to remember on September 4th, we were under 500. We were 69 and 70 in third place. And now we're a game back and going into the homestand, of course. And just remarkable the way this pitching staff has really taken control of this team for the past 17 games.
You know, Bobby, you mentioned the word stats. And if you look at this team on paper, they look like a third, fourth place baseball team, to be quite honest. I mean, you've got superstar and Jose Ramirez, and then, you got the solid stats by Stephen Kwan. The rest of them, you go, oh, that's why I go back to the This game is so mental. You and I have played a lot of baseball and we played a lot of softball where it's a really mental game. And these guys right now, you can see it the last couple of weeks playing with extreme confidence. And guys like Bo Naylor coming up with huge clutch hits and CJ Capis and these guys. Seems like every night a different guy is stepping up for these guys.
Well, it's reminiscent of last year where um, our bullpen has been solid and mostly hitting with runners in scoring position. The last 17 games, our batting average is 331, which is something we didn't do early in the year, which made us be a 500 baseball team because we were really inconsistent with runners in scoring position. Then all of a sudden we go crazy and you win 15 out of 17 as we head into this homestand. So, yeah, there's no question that the guys have gained confidence. And again, it's part of that Stephen Vogt philosophy that it's not just Quani or Hosey, it's the whole team is doing their part. And it's a belief that they all matter on this baseball team. And man alive, it not just us, but all around baseball. I mean, you see the Toronto Blue Jays trying to hold off the Yankees in the AL East, and Seattle is probably going to hold off Houston, but they're sitting in an interesting spot. Even the high-priced Dodgers are still, the Padres are still breathing down their neck in the National League West. So this week of baseball, oh my goodness, it's going to be pretty wild. We have a sports week ahead of us. If you're a sports nut, Ray, baseball to me takes top billing, but you have the Ryder Cup going on. You've got what, Penn State playing Oregon or whoever they're playing. And if you're a Big Ten fan, there's some fun things happening this week and weekend in the world of sports.
Yeah, these baseball things are going to be interesting. Detroit is at Boston this weekend.
Yeah,
You've got Boston, basically Cleveland, Detroit, and Houston battling for those playoff spots. It's going to be a lot of fun. Then, if you go to the National League, Bobby, I mean, you've got the Cincinnati Reds, Chicago Cubs, New York Mets.
right.
Thierry Francona has
Yep.
kept that Reds team right there.
Yeah, it's something they're not used to.
Yeah.
People, the Reds unfortunately just have not been a very good team even the last 25 years. I think they've only had 7, 8 winning seasons in that period of time. So this is a renewed spirit that Tito has brought to Cincinnati, which is pretty cool. So, good luck to them as they try to fight for a postseason spot. Again, edge of your seat. Um, I remember we used to kid that we did when we first got into this in the 90s, we did some sort of promotional thing that will sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge because you won't be sitting, you'll be on the edge of your seat the entire ball game.
That's for sure. Senior VP with the Guards, my good friend Bob DiBiasio joining us for another edition of Hey Bobby. You can check it out, wakr.net, our YouTube channel, Facebook page, and of course on the Ray Horner Morning Show. Bobby, as always, my friend, thank you for making time. Let's do it again next week.
Well, let's have some fun and talk postseason baseball next week, right? Go Guardians.